Gentlemen, welcome back to the Conflict Zone, your go-to source for insightful discussions on international affairs, law, and security. I'm your host, Dr. Christian Barrientos Ichaso, and today we have a truly exceptional episode lined up for you. We're diving deep into the heart of the matter, exploring the unfolding events in Ukraine and shedding light on the expertise of a distinguished journalist who has covered such critical international conflicts. Our featured guest needs no introduction to those who closely follow military and intelligence matters. With an impressive career spanning numerous renowned media outlets, Martin Arostegui stands as a beacon of experience and knowledge in his field. Martin Arostegui's remarkable career. Martin Arostegui is not just a journalist, but a seasoned war correspondent who has ventured into the heart of conflict zones to bring us the stories that shape our understanding of global events. He's been a voice for the voiceless, reporting on the complexities and nuances of international conflicts that mirror the current situation unfolding in Ukraine. Arostegui's byline has graced the pages of reputable publications such as Voice of America, The Wall Street Journal, The Daily Telegraph, The Washington Times, CNN, FOX News, UPI, and France 24. His reporting has provided invaluable insights into the world of military operations, intelligence strategies, and geopolitical dynamics. Twilight Warriors, exploring military special operations. But Martin Arostegui's influence doesn't end with his reporting. He is also an accomplished author, having penned the enlightening book Twilight Warriors. This book delves into the world of military special operations, shining a light on the brave men and women who undertake covert missions to ensure our security.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Christian.Barrientosi Ichaso. I'm with Martin Arostegui in the Conflict Zone, the podcast. Thank you, Martin. How are you?
Thank you, Christian. Good to see you. Good to be on board again after a while. Well, I think since we last spoke, quite a bit has happened. Of course, we know the news of the past few days. Iran finally launched a direct attack on Israel. The long-anticipated event, or the long-anticipated apocalyptic event, which frankly has turned out to be something of a non-event. I mean, I would have predicted, I wish I had done so on this podcast, but I did so in various writings, that I doubted if the Iranians had the capability to penetrate the Israeli air defense systems, which were also supported by U.S. and European allies. AWAC planes, they have an aircraft carrier there with all kinds of electronic warfare capabilities. Most of the drones were put off course before they even hit Israeli airspace. And the few missiles that struck Israel, a lot of them, I think, went astray. I think one of them actually hit near its target, which was an Israeli Air Force base in the Negev desert. I think they cratered a runway, and that's about it. These are pretty sophisticated missiles. I mean, they're 2,000-mile range missiles, hypersonic. Some of them have the capability of going stratospheric and then coming back into the atmosphere. So they were certainly moving at a massive speed, but even so, the Israeli defense systems managed to shoot down or disable or throw a lot of them off course. We were 300 missiles, I think maybe 3 or 4 struck. I'm not too surprised by this because having seen the way that Ukrainians managed to neutralize a great deal of the Russian missile attacks on Ukraine until now. I must say, I've got to caveat that. Until now. Now they're really hitting Ukraine. They're destroying their energy infrastructure. basically because the Ukrainians are running out of their defenses. They're very, very low. I predicted this. This was going to happen. I think a lot of experts did. That in March and April, that the Iranian air defenses would be very worn down if they weren't being properly resupplied, and they're not being properly resupplied. So Ukraine is an upstanding example of what happens when the air defenses run down against a concerted and ongoing missile attack. This is not going to happen in Israel, at least certainly not for the foreseeable future. Their air defense system is very strong. It is being completely resupplied by the United States and Europe, despite the criticism that many European countries have launched against Israel over their attack on over their occupation of Gaza and the way they've gone against the Palestinians. Have supported Israel in their attack against in resisting the Iranian attack, both militarily and diplomatically. So I think Israel's position is secure. And for that very reason, I think we are stuck. We may see a situation in which Iran cannot properly retaliate against Israel in the Middle East, right? They haven't done very much so far. I mean, the damage they've done has been ephemeral, has been outside of the Israeli theater. They've closed off the Red Sea. That they've done very effectively. They've supplied missiles to the Houthis, which they continue to do. They're probably more than missiles. They supply them with actual launch facilities, guidance, intelligence, and ongoing logistical support. And they have closed off the Red Sea to a great deal of Western shipping, no question about it. I think European shipping through the Red Sea up to the Suez Canal, to the Mediterranean, which is an artery for oil and other, mainly oil, going to Europe is deficient. Okay, you have to go around the Cape of Good Hope. The U.S., the Red Sea, is down to less than that. I think it's been, according to some estimates I've read, I know how accurate they are. It's down to like 90%. So they've successfully done that through their support of the Houthis, their proxies in Yemen. They have managed to practically cut off Western shipping into the Red Sea. Russian ships are getting through. I believe the Chinese ships are getting through, but European and American ships are practically out of the Red Sea. It's quite amazing. In fact, the other day I understood that the attacks were so intense by Houthi drones and missiles, they actually chased off a French destroyer or frigate that was trying to get close in to hit some of the Houthi targets. They actually managed to chase it out. Chase it out of their waters, so it couldn't act. But I'm afraid that it is going to go beyond the Red Sea. I think the Iranians might well decide to attack targets, Israeli and possibly American targets, in areas where they are very vulnerable and unprotected, and where they've been setting up third country bases. And one of the main areas I would give for this would be Latin America. Okay. We know perfectly well, I mean, this has been going on for years, the Iranians have a very large base of operations in Venezuela. There are IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in Venezuela, Quds Force officers. They have a drone production facility in the Maracay army base outside Caracas. They are giving the Venezuelans military hardware. Recently the Venezuelans have been using Iranian-made missile boats, okay, for their navy, possibly to intimidate or to interfere with oil exploration operations in Essequibo, in Guyana, which they're threatening to invade, obviously with Iranian support. And also in Bolivia, I believe that they're also, the Iranians are also establishing or have established a significant base of operations in Bolivia. As we know, the relations with Iran began quite some time ago. I remember writing an article about this back in 2010, when Morales and Ahmadinejad, the previous Iranian prime minister, had held a series of meetings. And it was even speculated that Iran was trying to get uranium out of Bolivia for their nuclear program. And they were recruiting people in Bolivia. They were recruiting computer engineers to come and work in Iran, I think mainly in computer security. And they were doing this all over Latin America. I have personal knowledge that they were doing this in Bolivia. And of course, we know that the Iranians have been very active in Argentina. They had this flight, regular flight, these Boeing 707 flights that were being loaned. Well, not loaned. They were operated by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The pilots and crews were Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They were Iranian flights being chartered covertly under the cover of a Venezuelan charter company. And they were flying very regularly to Argentina. We know that one of them was stopped there. One of them was grounded there, finally on order from the United States. And well, it took a long time, but finally, I think with the change of government in Argentina, with Javier Milei, they decided to Argentina finally decided to go along with the U.S. requisition order. They requisitioned the plane to be confiscated from Venezuela. And an investigation, I think a full investigation is underway, which at some point, I suppose, will be published together with the FBI and American law enforcement agencies. So, but I understand that it's more than that. I believe that recently there have been some serious allegations that Iranian personnel using Bolivian passports are infiltrating to Argentina and Peru. And I think one of them has been, at least I think on the Peruvian side, one of them was actually caught. And I believe he has been arrested. I don't know if he's being questioned or has been extradited. But I mean, this is becoming more frequent. I mean, when this flight was stopped in Argentina, the crew was also grounded with the flight, and it was discovered that the pilot was a Al-Quds officer, as was the co-pilot, as were several members of the crew. And again, we don't have the kind of information that we would like to have as to what questioning what kind of interrogation he may have been under, if any. It's possible that he may have been let go back to Iran before he could be questioned by the new government. And if he was questioned by the previous government, it probably was some kind of softball interrogation, if anything. But obviously, we have a lot of Iranian agents moving around Latin America, from Venezuela and now from Bolivia. There have been reports in Chile, reports in Ecuador, I think possibly as well. And the question is, and of course, there's also a new level of activity in Ciudad del Este in Paraguay, from what I understand, that had been dormant for a while since after the 9/11 attacks in the United States, in which some kind of communication was traced to Ciudad del Este. There was a massive crackdown there by the FBI with the Paraguayan authorities. And for a while, it seemed that the Iranian or Hezbollah activity in Ciudad del Este had diminished up to a point. But now it seems that it's on the upswing. So, to my mind, I mean, from what I know about how terrorist networks have operated before, it would seem that since they having a very hard time getting at Israel or the U.S. in the Middle East, due to the vast military defenses that the US and Israel have there, they may well decide to attack in a much more vulnerable area, which is Latin America, where you have lots of American targets, lots of Israeli targets, embassies, business interests, Jewish synagogues, Jewish communities, U.S., all kinds of U.S. facilities, the DEA and so forth, and so on, which are very, very vulnerable, and where local defenses are not strong at all. The United States doesn't have a counter-terrorist base in Latin America anywhere at the moment, outside maybe of the Caribbean region. So if there is going to be a major Iranian retaliatory attack, Latin America could well be the target zone. It could well be ground zero, like they did back in the 90s when they hit the Israeli embassy and the Jewish community center in Buenos Aires. The big Hezbollah attack killed about 100 people with truck bombs. This was. I would expect that today the internal Argentine security services would behave differently, and probably would protect Israeli or American facilities more effectively than they did back then. Which, in fact, from what I understand, talking to people that have investigated the case, they opened up. They just stopped surveillance over the Iranian targets, over a warehouse where the truck bombs were being prepared, over the embassy where the Iranian Revolutionary Guards officers were apparently organizing the whole thing. Surveillance stopped and just let them go ahead with it. That's what I understand happened back in the 90s. I don't see that happening in Argentina today under Milei. But still, I mean, Latin America is a very big place. They may well decide to do it in a different country, or they may well use very large networks. I've been informed that all these years, and in fact, possibly the reason for these mysterious flights by these IRGC planes chartered through Venezuelan companies, that their purpose was to build up, strengthen, supply Hezbollah networks in Argentina and other Latin American countries. So it's hard at this point, through a series of front companies, businesses, often local businesses, innocent sounding things, like mosques, that kind of thing. We're all serving as Hezbollah fronts. And perhaps their structure there has been strengthened to a point when they can launch an attack, even with a more vigilant local security service. So that's my fear. That's what I think could well happen.
It's a good analysis. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Very interesting. We talk about the Bolivia, and now Bolivia have a deals treaty with the Iran, a new treaty with Arce president and Iran. This treaty is for the army, for support to army, support the technology. And I need to investigate this treaty, the Bolivian treaty with Iran. No, but Bolivia have a problem with this treaty. No, the Bolivian citizens have a problem with this treaty.
Really? I mean, there's public opposition to this in Bolivia, I imagine.
Yeah.
I understand, are they flying drones to the Bolivians as well? I understand that they were also negotiating the possible construction of an Iranian drone factory in Bolivia. Is this part of the treaty?
Yeah, this is part of the treaty. Yeah, the international treaty in the Iran, Bolivia.
What else are they doing there?
This is a president the Arce subscribe this treaty. I need more date, or there is the date, the date investigate, no? The Bolivian treaty.
We know, I mean, Hezbollah has a base, supposedly. I mean, a long time ago, they talked, frankly, when I was there, I could never really confirm it, that they had some sort of training facility in Chapare, in the Coke, in the Coca region. Has there been anything about that?
A Vietnamese place.
Vietnamese.
Very interesting. Oh, it's the news for me.
Well, perhaps not. I frankly, I always thought it was a bit far-fetched. But no, I mean, I knew that the Hezbollah was a growing Hezbollah activity there, and Iranian activity. Also, well, Brazil, I think, is also, I mean, frankly, an attack could well occur in Brazil, where there is a very large Islamic community, where the Lula's government has given all kinds of facilities to Iran. I mean, you know, their Navy,
the Navy in Rio, in Sao Paulo,
port visit to Rio last year. So, and there's been a lot of interchanges with Iran. So I expect that would probably be. I would expect Brazil would probably be a very likely target of a possible Iranian or Hezbollah. Well, it's not going to be directly Iranian, I think.
In Sao Paulo,
Hezbollah in Latin America, more so possibly than Argentina, where the authorities are trying to crack down on this. Although, you know, again, I mean, their network has been strengthened throughout the entire continent. So in areas where even the security services may be more vigilant, the Hezbollah network is also stronger. So it's very unpredictable to know where the next attack would come. But I would bet Latin America would be a target area, definite target area.
Yeah, I remember last month we talked about the Libya is the epicenter of the Hezbollah, and now Iran support with Hezbollah. Iran have interest in Hezbollah around the world. No, you talk about the Libya, who is the epicenter of this terrorist group.
Well, I don't think Libya was ever involved with Hezbollah. I mean, Libya was at one time a major sponsor of the Palestinian Rejectionist Front. It was at a time when the Palestinians were trying to, I mean, when they were trying to make a deal with the Israelis, which finally resulted in the Oslo agreements in the early 1990s and the establishment of the West Bank Authority. There were groups within the Palestinian movement supported by Libya as well, which were trying to sabotage this. You know, they were killing, eliminating moderate Palestinians that were trying to negotiate with the Israelis. Several times, I think they even tried to kill Arafat. And that was what Libya was the center of. Groups like the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Abu Nidal, these sort of groups. Hezbollah was an Iranian creation. It was created in the early, the first bombings were in the early 1980s, mainly targeting U.S. Facilities. They blew up the U.S. Embassy in Beirut twice. They blew up the Marine barracks, killed about 250 Marines when America tried to lead a multinational force into Lebanon in the 1983, I believe it was. So I think that was always pretty much of an Iranian operation, Hezbollah. I don't think Libya was ever involved in Hezbollah. They were involved with other groups, other rejectionist groups, but not Hezbollah. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy, trained, funded by the Revolutionary Guard. You know, that's what it is. I understand that now finally they are beginning to. There was a question when the around some question as to whether the Hezbollah would also strike Israel from southern Lebanon, and they have. I think they've been a consistent rocket barrage now for the past 24 hours. They did as of last night, the night following the Iranian strikes. Is northern Israel from southern Lebanon quite consistently with Katyusha rockets and some guided missiles as well. And they have about 100,000 of them, between 100 and 200,000 missiles in Lebanon. So they can go on with this for a very, very long time.
What do you think about
So
this?
this is, but I think, as I say, I think their serious attack is going to be outside the region. They're going to come to the conclusion that the best way they can damage Israel and the U.S. is by hitting them outside, at least, where they are much in areas where they're less protected.
You remember you talk about the Tarek al-Sami, who is now in the prison with the regime Maduro. Tarek al-Sami is part of the Hezbollah, part of the Arab war.
He's a member of. He was a fun. Yes, I mean he was Hezbollah. He was a member of Hezbollah. He was an operative of Hezbollah. I think the link is that they actually detected money that he got out from local drug deals, which he then sent to Hezbollah accounts in Lebanon. I think that's the connection. He was laundering drug money into Hezbollah accounts in Lebanon. And he was connected. His people were also connected to were operating in Lebanon and Syria with Venezuelan diplomatic passports.
Yeah, diplomatic passport. Yeah, I remember.
And he was very much involved in the internal security in Venezuela. One of the Hezbollah operatives, supposedly somebody quite close to him, was actually involved with the Círculos Bolivarianos, setting up the training and setting up the structure for the Círculos Bolivarianos, and he was directly involved in disarming an operation to disarm the Caracas Metropolitan Police. This was apparently conducted by one of somebody from the group operating with elements in the army and in the Círculos Bolivarianos, which they went in and just emptied out the arsenal of the Caracas Metropolitan Police, which was the last security force in Venezuela that was protecting the opposition, because the Caracas was under which was a very well armed, highly trained police force. It was under the Christian Democratic mayor of Caracas. So without that, it was much easier for the Círculos Bolivarianos and the new police structure, the Sabine, to operate. They had virtually no opposition. So that was a very important operation for them to conduct. Now, what has happened to al-Sami? Well, he was involved in all kinds of corruption. He was beginning to affect Maduro's own interests, and he played his hand. And so they decided to give him. Also, it's a way of placating the United States. They can hang up their al-Sami and say, "Look, we're cracking down on Hezbollah. He's wanted by American authorities. There's a warrant out for him. In fact, there's been a reward for al-Sami by the U.S. offered by the U.S. Treasury now for quite some time. So they can, who knows? They can maybe make a deal with the U.S. turn over al-Sami in return for some concession. Yeah. Because al-Sami is obviously no more use to Maduro. And he was also getting and probably stealing from him, I mean, he was involved in everything. He was doing oil, food, gold, you name it. Al-Sami was involved in it. And he probably got a bit gritty, So, and so he's no longer of use to Maduro. He became a problem for Maduro, and so he can now trade him off for the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? Frankly, I don't think he'll do it. I think he'll play with it. I don't think he'll do it because I think al-Sami has too much information that he could reveal to the United States, which I don't think that Maduro necessarily wants to have circulating. I'll put it this way: I'd be surprised if any deal is actually made, but he'll probably he'll play with him. He'll with the U.S. He'll dangle him before the eyes of the administration and the Treasury Department, the FBI.
Very interesting analysis. Thank you, Martin. That is all. That is the time out.
You're welcome, Christian. See you soon.
See you next podcast in the conflict zone. Subscribe and share this important podcast. Thank you. Bye. See you.
Thanks, Christian. See you later. Bye-bye.
Analyzing the situation in Ukraine. Today, we're fortunate to have Martin Arostegui with us, providing his expertise on the developing situation in Ukraine. As tensions rise and international concerns mount, Arostegui's insights will offer a deeper understanding of the complexities at play and the potential implications for global stability. A message from Dr. Christian Barrientos Ichaso. Before we kick off our conversation, I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude to our audience. Your support, subscriptions, and engagement keep our mission alive to foster awareness and understanding of critical international matters. As an international company and business lawyer, I am deeply committed to sharing insights on international law, security, compliance, anti-corruption measures, tackling crime, and facilitating smooth trade relations. Stay connected. So whether you're an avid follower of international affairs, a business professional navigating the complexities of global trade, or someone seeking clarity amidst the chaos of international conflicts, podcast The Conflict Zone is your destination for accurate information and informed discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your notepads, ready your questions, and get ready for an illuminating conversation with the one and only Martin Arostegui. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss a single moment of this episode. Thank you for joining us, and let's dive right into the heart of the matter.